library bill. Thank you, by the way. Sorry, Katie, I should have told you to get started on the live stream. The first one's library bill. For one reason or another, this committee handles bills that deal with library funding and library issues. We dealt with a couple last year. We, a couple of years ago, set up a per capita funding for county libraries that we add in across the state, as well as per capita funding for something called the SLRC, or as Senator Alfred likes to call it, the SLRC. I prefer not, that's the last time you're going to hear me use that term. And this just really increased, it follows the funding up to about, I think, 2027, although we're going to amend it a little bit later. I think we're going to start a little later with that. This is a sort of appropriation thing where what you do is you say, how does this look? Can we afford this? And appropriation says, no, but you can afford this. And so the amounts in there are going to be adjusted slightly so that they are fiscally manageable. And Alistair, I'll leave it to you to tell, without too much detail, what's happening.
Thank you, sir. So yes, so they're both, this bill both funds regional library resource centers and the branches of public libraries, and both are increased by 20 cents rather than the bill came in with around 40 to 60 cents for the former, and I believe something like 60 cents for the latter. And that was due to what we were told by our betters in the Appropriations Committee. Additionally, we have a policy thing in this bill that with the additional funding, we're requiring that public libraries adopt at least one of several listed programs. We're hoping that with extra money, libraries can better serve their communities in a variety of ways. So the options of programs that they can have either alone or in partnership with other units of government or nonprofit organizations are programs designed to increase scores in the kindergarten assessment, programs designed to close learning gaps, including those that have been created by the COVID-19 pandemic, initiative to expand digital equity and access to free computing, an educational program focused on life skills such as health literacy, operation of a small business, workforce development, community resource services, including serving as a local community hub during public emergencies, a program to reduce barriers to STEM education by providing activities, classes, programs, and events associated with statistics, engineering, and math and technology. Science is what the S is, and support for mental health and reducing social and physical isolation after the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think the thought was with additional money going to these libraries, they should provide a little additional programming. A lot of libraries have taken stuff like this on during the COVID-19 pandemic, I think, and we would like to continue to see them do that.
Yeah, sorry. What we did is we said, if we're going to give you more money, we want a little more bang for our buck. Can you give us some suggestions of things that you might be interested in doing? It's not a comprehensive list or a required list, but these are things they said that they think that they would move forward into that they don't currently do in there. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the amendments or the bill? All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion on the amendments.
Move the amendments.
Thank you, delegate. And I saw Guyton raise her hand there, so we're going to take that as that's a second. All in favor of the amendments, please raise your hands. It's easier for me that way, just to see hands in the air. Thank you. That goes unanimously. And now on the bill as amended, any comments or questions or motions?
Move favorable as amended.
Thank you, delegate. Do I have a second? I see a second. All in favor of the bill as amended, please raise your hand. Okay. Okay, yeah, I got them all. Okay, so that was 6. All right, put that bill aside. The next bill is a local bill, but that we need to deal with. We need to explain what it is. It's last one's 685. This one's 865. This is a bill that can be called a due process bill or a burden of proof bill. When a special education, a parent or family, or even a special education student feels they're not getting the services that they truly are entitled to, excuse me, there's a process where they appeal it. Eventually, if there is no resolution in the early stages, it can end up in front of an administrative law judge. Typically, in a plaintiff situation, in front of an administrative law judge, it is the plaintiff's job to prove their case. This would shift the burden of proof from the plaintiff to the school system in this case. So it's often referred to as a burden of proof bill. Alistair, do you have anything to add to that? Okay, and we don't have any amendment. We do have one little amendment on this, don't we? This bill was given a sunset by the sponsor in Howard County. The sunset was 5 years. You might think that the local education association, HCEA, would be worried about a bill like this, but they're actually have indicated that they support this concept. They did ask us to shorten the sunset from 5 years to 3 years. So I'm going to suggest an amendment that we do that. Is there anything else, Alistair?
No, sir, that's it. And this only applies in Howard County.
Only in Howard County for the next 3 years. And then, the general ideas we'll take a look. And I think we'll see, Delegate Griffith, you've already said that you might be interested in jumping on board or doing something similar next year. Yeah, Delegate Branch, a question.
No, I was just agreeing with Delegate Griffin.
Okay, me too, Baltimore City, right? Okay, got it. Anybody have any questions on the amendments? I'm willing, because it's a small change, unless someone objects to the amendments, to take the bill and just do it as one vote, so we don't have to go through that formality of approving the bill with the amended sunset on it. Is that okay with everyone? Great. All who would favor the bill as amended, please raise your hand. And both of you are scratching your glasses. Is that a yes vote? All right. Are there any not in favor then? Let's do that. All right. I think it goes unanimously across the board there as well. All right. Last one is Montessori schools are interested in participating. There are already some public Montessori schools in Prince George's County. They would like to be able to teach kindergarten under the systems that we use. Montessori teachers are trained in a different fashion than some of the training that exists across the state. The classes are also held in a different fashion in that they are taught multi-graded. I forget what the start is, but pre-K through, and then they mix them up as they grow older as well. So we have two distinct bills which are nearly identical. The one bill, and actually both bills say that a teacher who was trained in the Montessori programs, and there are 3 designations of the programs that they are, may be considered to be certificated or certified to teach pre-K in our state in a Montessori setting only. They wouldn't suddenly become certified to go teach at a pre-K somewhere else, but if they're in the Montessori school or Montessori setting, they would be considered certified to teach. That would make it so that they could then participate in the mixed delivery system. The reason this bill is coming forward is because the mixed delivery system is a great idea, but we need capacity from the private providers, and we need the capacity in the public schools in Prince George's County. And so in order to allow them to participate, we have to come up with a slightly different certification there. In addition, there are some other requirements for square footage per student in pre-K and teacher ratios for students in pre-K. Since they are mixed across the board again, since they teach their classes for mixed grades, we've come up with a sort of in between. The square footage is typically 35 feet per student in pre-K and 25 once you get them over 5 years old. We said, okay, how about 30 for them across, because they have all those students in there. And then the other one that we said was there is a student to teacher ratio, which is 10 to 1. Montessori is close to that. They have 2 teachers in the room for up to 25 students. Again, they have older students, so they don't need necessarily the same ratio in total. And then we said when they're between 26 and 35 students inclusive, they would have 3 teachers, and 35 is apparently their maximum class size. So even when they're mixed. We've amended a little bit to be in that form. Alistair, you want to add any detail that I didn't, please? And I have a couple of questions after that.
Yeah, so I would just say that, so one thing, the first Delegate Ivy bill, HB 467 sets credentialing standards for Montessori teachers, which are unique to the teaching of Montessori and use the approved Montessori credential bodies. The second thing that his other bill does, HB 1305, is allow those Montessori schools to be eligible for participation in various blueprint programs, including the pre-kindergarten expansion grant, which allows existent private schools to become full-day pre-K schools rather than just part-time. And secondly, the actual participation in the public-private partnership to provide full-day and universal pre-K under the Kerwin bill. So it is including Montessori schools in those two programs and subject to the specifications that Delegate Ebersole described.
Thanks. Delegate Griffith, I see your hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick questions. First, is this opt-in for the various Montessori schools, or are they mandated to not participate?
No, it's if they want to participate, they're going to need to have teachers that what they would have had to do before, if they wanted to participate, is they'd had to find teachers that were trained with the proper amount of what the state requirements are. And they said, we don't really train teachers like that. And a few calls to some experts said that Montessori schools are a great partner to have in this. And if we can find a way to include them that we consider palatable. So no, they don't have to. They're private schools. And just like in any other situation, if they're not interested in participating in a state program, taking scholarships for, the mixed delivery system, if they want to just exist on their own, they can for sure.
Okay, so this is not a mandate at all.
No, and there's one Montessori school in particular that came to us and said, we want to be part of the mixed delivery system, but we can't, it would be too difficult for us under these circumstances. So no mandate.
No,
I don't think it's written that way, isn't it, Alistair, for sure?
Yes, definitely. I just wanted to add the reason that they have to be specifically exempted into here is because the blueprint has specific ratios for class sizes, it doesn't really fit the Montessori context in which you're teaching kids of multiple grades with multiple teachers in the classroom. So under the strict 1 to 10 1 to 10 ratios that are in the blueprint, they would not probably be allowed to come in unless they had very small classrooms. But under this new language, existing Montessori programs will be able to participate in the public-private partnership.
Yeah, just to let you know what my thought was, because we're having a huge teacher shortage in Hartford County, and one more level of certification for some of our Montessori schools might, be the backbreaker until we can fix that problem in Hartford. So thank you.
Yeah, and we've discovered that there are lots of providers that are not jumping at this chance. And the blueprint has percentages. We're supposed to get certain percentages of private schools in the mixed delivery system. It was written in there to encourage them to participate and also make it possible for them to. But we're finding there's a dearth of them who are necessarily interested in all parts of the state. So we're trying to increase the capacity of the private providers to do the pre-K. Delegate Guyton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a question about, so we're waiving or adapting some of the Office of Child Care rules here. Were they part of the consultation about what was appropriate? I do recognize that Montessori schools in general go up to a higher grade level, but we're talking about preschool here. And so I'm a little concerned about the larger class sizes there. And also with the model of Montessori, are they going to be also required to do the kindergarten readiness assessment? Because they have a very different model of delivery. And I just have some questions and concerns about this bill in general. Maybe
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Did you finish your question?
If you could just give me a little bit more background about the process of making this decision about the 30 square feet and the number of students for the Montessori classes, because I'm not sure that's a real comfortable change.
Okay. We talked to people in the Montessori schools and talked to MSDE about what they felt was palatable as far as the adjustments. And this is where we landed. I mean, we can discuss them if we want to, if we want to make a change in what we're allowing. It sounds like it would make it, the things you might be suggesting here might make it more difficult for them and they might not participate. But if we feel like that's not, worth it, then we need to take a look at those numbers. The idea is that the square footage for pre-K is larger because they're all pre-K students, and the square footage goes down as students become older. So you have an average grade in that classroom. So we sort of went with an average square footage and teacher ratio.
Sure. Do you mind if I ask one more question? Is there
No, I
anyone
don't,
from
not at all. This is an important discussion for us to have.
Yeah. Is there anyone from Montessori here with us today to ask a
Yes.
question?
Ellie Lichtash is actually the individual who kind of spearheaded this effort. So Ellie, if you want to answer and talk to Delegate Guyton about her concerns, I'd be happy to listen to you. Try to keep it to a minute or two. This is not testimony, but do your best to answer her question. So
my specific questions, Ellie, thank you for being here. So I did have a son who went to Montessori school, so I'm not anti-Montessori. I do recognize it's a very different model though. And first, if you could speak to the readiness for the kindergarten readiness assessment and whether Montessori schools would be actually required to administer that for their kids. And secondly, I am a little concerned about the teacher-student ratio. I guess I've always thought it was a little high, even for Montessori, the way that it was set.
Sure.
And since we are talking about preschoolers, really, there's not a lot of mixture of grade levels in that. I may be misunderstanding, but that was my experience. And can you speak to that?
Ellie,
Sure, I'm
go ahead.
happy to answer both. One is we've been participating in the pre-K readiness since 2014, so it's not new to us. We want to continue. We're helping family under poverty law, and we were very successful in doing so. The reason for the changes is with the new legislation, it kicks all the Montessori schools out because our accreditation requires certain classes to be of 24 to 35. This is how Montessori work. If we don't have kindergarten level in our multi-age classroom, we don't get the same level of readiness to the younger one, because the younger one learned from the older one. And so for us, it's built in there. How do we do the readiness? We have evolved in a way to create a platform that matches the early learning assessments, just like the regular schools are doing, the regular preschools are doing. And the Montessori schools in the public sectors created that built-in our assessments program. And so all I need to do is pay $42 a month to get those assessments, and my teacher can immediately include all the information about each child, and you get a full assessment in comparison to the ELA, which is the early learning assessment everyone else is using in our state. So we feel very comfortable getting ready for the readiness, and that's why we would like to participate in the blueprint. The reason why we would like a smaller square footage is we have a multi-age classroom. I have 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and 5-year-old in the same space. They don't need, if the classroom is too large for me, if I do 35 square foot per all the children, we lose the sense of community. We lose the ingredient that gets the children to learn together. We lose the ability of everything that we want to have there. It just loses it. That's the one thing. And we are highly accredited by associations that are national. We've done it for years. And so we feel that if we're required to do that, we lose who we are. And we can't do that, whether it's the number of children or the size.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that opportunity. And it may be that my son was in it so long ago that we didn't see that evolution. So I will trust you on that. I hope that we can continue to look at other different types of preschools to include them as well if we're waiving and adapting rules. Thank you.
Delegate Lasanti.
Thank you very much. And I was just curious, Ellie, are you're located in Prince George's County, right?
You're muted, Ellie.
Apology. I'm located in Montgomery County.
Montgomery County.
Yes, I'm collaborating with schools in Baltimore, the public school in Baltimore City with Monica.
Okay.
There are Montessori schools of Maryland. There are 76 Montessori schools of Maryland. Some of us are public, some of us are charter, some of us are private.
Right. I'm just wondering, Mr. Chair, if we, because I do have concerns about schools in my county as well. I'm just wondering if we could maybe amend this to make it a small pilot program for the first year. And identify some of the more urbanized areas where this issue really is more of a problem than in others.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a
I'm gonna
thought.
listen. I'm gonna listen, and we're gonna figure out what we might do here. I'm hearing some
Okay.
concerns, and those are
All right.
important.
Thank you.
Stand by, and we'll see where we end up. Excuse me, Delegate
sir.
Branch.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Delegate Santi, were you finished?
No, I was. I said,
Okay, good.
yes, sir. Thank
Delegate
you.
Branch.
Good morning. Just have a question. So Baltimore City also has a charter school that is fully Montessori and partial. How would that impact them? How would this bill impact
Ellie, I'll
them?
let you answer that question too. If you want.
They would be able to increase the number they accept of students automatically. If you allow them to participate in the blueprint in the way that we have suggested right now, they can increase the capacity of the school, and the Baltimore City gain totally by having more children benefiting from this education. I believe they have something like 600 applicants for every, in DC, I knew the numbers correctly, it was 600 applicants for 30 spots. That's how much parents would like to participate, and they have to limit because of what we're doing. Now, if you allow them to increase the numbers, they'll be able to increase. None of us is going to increase the numbers to the maximum if we can't handle that. The Montessori classroom has to work in such a synergy that we see the benefits of it. And so that's why the assessments are in place.
Okay, so I don't know, Alistair, or would this mean that they would need to get a new charter agreement?
I don't think so. I think it's going to depend on the charter agreement they have specifically, but I would think not. What this would do is it's going to allow people to be, rather than having, I think under current law, to be certified as a teacher, you have to meet specific requirements, and to be a Montessori teacher in the teachings of Montessori, you have to have additional requirements. So this is going to eventually say you can just have those other requirements, but how the current charter is set up, I'm not totally sure, but I think you would probably be fine. You probably wouldn't be in violation of this. It would just allow it going forward for other teachers to be part of those schools who are a little bit better suited for the job of teaching at a Montessori.
And this is even though that the bill requires the student ratios, they still wouldn't have to change their charter?
I would have to take a look at the exact language of the charter, Delegate Branch. I'll be happy to do that, though.
They don't
Right, so
have
I've heard-
ratio.
Sorry,
don't
I'm
have
sorry, Del.
ratios
I'm
in-
sorry, Delegate Branch. I thought you were done. Please continue.
Oh, no, they don't have ratios in their agreement, so that's why I'm asking.
Oh yeah, then I think they would be fine as long as they're not in violation of these particular ratios here. They're not going to have to adopt new ratios, but they would have to have under this bill to participate in the blueprint expansion program, 2 to 3 teachers in the school, depending on how many students they have, if they're under 25 or over 25.
All right, Ellie, we're going to wait. We only calling you if somebody asks a question. So stand by. Does anybody else have questions? It sounds to me like we have a few concerns that we're a little uncomfortable. We're not sure about some of the implications here. Delegate Guyton has expressed concerns about the adjustment of the size. I've heard concerns about the testing, and I've heard concerns also about how it would affect other charter school agreements. I'm likely to hold it, but I want to hear Delegate Wilkins' you have your hand up. I'd be happy to hear you weigh in at this point.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just listening to the conversation and not being super familiar with Montessori schools, but I think that they're a really great concept. And if we are able to sort of increase their participation, particularly for more low-income students to have access to be able to participate in Montessori schools, I really like the concept and the idea of us doing that. And I like that this is optional. So I think that what that means is that the schools that are able to fit into this criteria and want to participate will be able to, and the other ones won't. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a whole lot of schools. So I'm not necessarily pushing us if we have discomfort, but I just wanted to say that I do like the concept and the increased access for more students to be able to participate in this kind of school. So my question is actually for colleagues, just based on the conversation, and I think some are more familiar with the Montessori concept than I am. I just wanted to get a better sense of what hesitations still exist so that we can explore those.
Anybody want to weigh in what their concerns are? I think we've heard a couple of them. If anybody has anything to add other than sort of my review of what I heard with the concerns that I heard. It's not too late. I thought this might be our last meeting, but I think we're going to hold this bill and get a few questions answered about the charters, a few questions answered about people's concerns about class sizes, and perhaps ratios. I agree with Delegate Wilkins that the Montessori schools are good programs. We should try to find a way to let them be included, but we have to answer those concerns first. So we'll probably have talk to me, talk to Alistair if you need to a little bit. I will give you a green light to stop in and ask him a question here or two about this. I've even heard, I'm sorry, Delegate Lasanti even suggested that maybe we allow it for a limited number of schools and pilot it. All these are things we need to consider. I'll try to talk to you all offline, and we'll probably have a meeting sometime tomorrow if we get to a point where we feel like we're ready to give this bill the consideration it probably deserves. Anybody else, any parting comments today? Then we passed two and we had a rich discussion as always. Early childhood, got to be the best subcommittee. Delegate Lasanti, parting blow.
I just want to echo Delegate Wilkins, and I think that there's a way to make this work. I mean, so just
it's very important that we all be comfortable with what we're doing now.
And access is very important. So
right.
Well, I'm sure we can work this out.
Delegate Branch, last bite at the apple.
Yep, I agree also. It's just that we just want to make sure that it doesn't negatively impact the current charter schools that we have in the city. I mean, they're already facing enough, and I just want to make sure that they're not being impacted in a negative way. So
just make sure we know what we're doing.
Yeah, that's my only concern. So I would like to speak to you guys offline as well.
I'm going to give you all Ms. Lichtash's email address as well, so that if you want to ask her questions, you can do that. If she wants to share her phone number with you, she can do that as well. And so we'll go from there. We'll try to do this. There's a lot of time, but there's not much time. So if we want to get this done, I think we need to have a feeling if we're going to move forward and how we're going to by tomorrow sometime. So we'll take it there. Thank you all very much. Delegate Lasanti, I finally saw your eyes open up, and she texted me that she was almost barely awake. But I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all getting up nice and early, because I didn't want to rush through this discussion. I thought we might have a discussion.
I just wanted to be recorded in the green of the previous bill.
Yes, I'm sorry. We have that. We had two previous ones. We had one online.
I voted on one.
You got here in time for one. Got it.
Yes.
Okay, so the library bill would have been the one.
My coffee wasn't ready. I told you that. I was waiting.
I meant to bring it over, but I was a little rushed myself this morning. So, all right. Hey, thank you all very much. We'll all see some of each other in caucus. See you soon.